On today's daily episode on Chicago Bulls Central, I mentioned how the rotations for the Chicago Bulls could work out. And one of the players that I wasn't quite sure how they were going to balance out in that rotation was Chris Duarte. Now, I did put it to you guys. Did you guys want to hear a episode kind of more focused on what Chris Duarte could potentially bring to the Chicago Bulls? And a lot of you guys did say yes. So we're going to get into it right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform that we happen to be on. With that being said, welcome to the nightly episode of Chicago Bulls Central. For those that have been around the channel for a while, you know these late night drops only happen during the off season, and they're usually videos that have one topic that we just dive into. We kind of go maybe into the weeds a little bit of a shorter video. And today's topic is Chris Duarte. Now, this is a player that the Bulls did acquire in the trade with DeMar DeRozan, and he's a player that some Bulls fans and fans in general hope that he can get back more to what he was his rookie season, where he ended up being all rookie second team, right along with Josh Giddey and Ayo Dosunmu on that all rookie second team. And people have now questioned, like, can he come in here and play a larger role for a Chicago Bulls team that is looking for, that's gone younger? He's 27 years old. And then when you look at it, his rookie year, he averaged 13 points per game. He did that in playing 55 games, starting 39 of those games, as well as shooting 36%, almost 37% from three, taking 4.5 3-pointers per game, and then going as well, shooting 43% from the field. He chipped in 4 rebounds, 2.1 assists, and that was his best season. And it's been downhill from then. His second year in the league, still with the Indiana Pacers, 7.9 points per game. He did that on 36% shooting and 31% shooting from three-point range. And then last year with the Sacramento Kings, 59 games played, which is the most games played in his NBA career, 38% from the field, 34% from three-point range, only 3.9 points. Didn't really play a whole hell of a lot there. He only averaged 12 minutes per game. And so now some Bulls fans are questioning, can Chris Duarte get more back to what he was his rookie year, and how that can help the Chicago Bulls bench? Some people even going so far as to saying that Chris Duarte might be the second guard off the Bulls bench, right behind Ayo Dosunmu, because of his ability as a two-way player. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about that and dive into that, because at the end of the day, Chris Duarte's defense just has not been all that great over the course of his NBA career. He actually ranks out, when you look at players that have similar defensive output to Chris Duarte, he ranks with Georgie Nang, Duncan Robinson, Aaron Naismith, Pascal Siakam, and Trey Lyles, right? So that's kind of a mixed bag there. Right now, I do think that he can be a solid defender within a team concept of a game. But overall, it's just that when you look at it, defensively, he doesn't get deflections a whole lot. He doesn't have a lot of versatility defending-wise at either. When you look at his defensive chart, he guards, shooting guards, small forwards. Now, he gets switched on to power forwards, but his defensive rating is the lowest when he's guarding point guards and power forwards. So puts him just there strictly on the wing. Now, we know in the NBA, wing defenders are a really big thing if you're able to defend. But Chris Duarte, since that initial defensive presence that he flashed his rookie season, has just not been really that for the remainder of his career. Now, he's still carrying some of that because he still is an active defender. And even at being 6'5", 6'6", is fluctuated between where he's rated. He does have a 6'7" wingspan. And overall, when you look at it, his defense at the rim isn't that good. His defense, when he switched on the players, isn't necessarily that good. But he is a solid team concept defender, and you can't take away from that. His differential has been negative over the course of his NBA career, but that's where things get a little bit interesting for a player like Chris Duarte, is the fact that when you look at it, Chris Duarte on the offensive side of the ball, where he ranks and brings in his most versatility, is he's a player that shoots a lot in spot-up shots, right? Also, he's better as well when he has a point guard kind of creating shots for him. He's not this player that scores really good off isolation. Actually, he's worse. The worst part of his game is scoring off isolation. But where he does good at is getting the handoff. Sometimes even being the pick and roll ball handler. But when he can be a spot up shooter, as well as a roll man in a pick and roll. That's typically where he's most effective at. Now, this is a Bulls team that is going to be missing some spot up shooting, just theoretically when you look at it. So you're hoping that Chris Duarte can bring some of that maybe for the Chicago Bulls. But that's, again, where you start getting into some of the things that are concerned for him. Now, these are things outside of Chris Duarte's control. Bear with me. I know we're getting into the weeds heavily in this one. But one of the things that stands out about Chris Duarte and how he scores at times is that he actually becomes a better player the less points that he makes. When you look at his career, he started off in that first season, as we talked about, in 2022, his rookie year. He started off having a true shooting percentage of 53%. Now, in that time, his three-point attempt rate was only 41, right? So only 41 of percent of his offense was coming off three-point shots. Over the next two seasons, he saw his three-point attempt rate go up, whereas his efficiency came down, right? So 53% his rookie year with a three-point attempt rate of 41. His second year in the league, he had a true shooting percentage of 49%, and his three-point attempt rate went up to 52%. And then as much as last season, his three-point attempt rate was 60%, and his true shooting was 51%, so it went up a little bit when it comes down to it. And the quality of his shots have gone down every season as well, where he started off taking really good shots at 72% shot quality over that time. So what we're seeing from him is that Chris Duarte is a player that he's a better and more efficient offensive player when he actually has a higher offensive load. But when that's coming off a point guard setting up shots for him, he's not some isolation scorer, even though he does flash that internationally in basketball. But when he's been his most efficient offensively, it's come via a point guard that has set him up. And that is where it gets to something potentially special here with the Chicago Bulls team. In no way am I saying that Chris Duarte is going to all of a sudden turn into a player for the Chicago Bulls, that he's going to be one of the better players off the bench for the Bulls at all. But for a team that has a point guard in Josh Giddey that they are looking, and Josh Giddey ranks as in the 91st percentile as far as open shots generated for teammates, a player like Chris Duarte that thrives in that and does thrive off coming off handoffs and getting to the rim, cutting to the rim as well, maybe Josh Giddey can uncover that a little bit. Now, also, we could potentially have Lonzo Ball coming back off the bench. I'm not too keen on that, right? I don't really think that's a huge possibility. But if you also are, if a player like Ayo Dosunmu continues to take steps passing wise, maybe you can see a little bit more of that as well. And that's what it really comes down to for Chris Duarte. He's a very interesting player if you want to get into the weeds of analytics to really look at him. Again, he's a much better three-point shooter when he's overall more involved in the offense. So it seemed like after his first year, he was almost trying to make this be made into this player that just can come into the game and just shoot threes. And that's not really what we're seeing in his game. And I think when you look at how he's played internationally, that backs that up as well, because he has the ball in his hands a lot and that ball moves around, but he's asked to do more. So if the Bulls can carve out a role, if he can earn one, right? That's what it comes down to. If Chris Duarte can earn a role for the Chicago Bulls team, and then he fits within the team concept, that's what you want. And that is an ultimate role player, right? And it's funny enough because when you look at kind of the chart, I talked about who he compares to defensively. When you look at who he compares to offensively, one of the players high up on that list is Torrey Craig, followed by Marcus Morris, Patrick Baldwin, Grady Dick, who we haven't really seen a lot of Grady Dick in that time, and then even as much as PJ Washington, right? Are players that he, as far as how he likes to score, kind of the situations that make him the best. And so it all points to Chris Duarte being an extremely solid role player. And the question is that can he unlock that further with the Chicago Bulls? 27 years old. We are in the midst of a youth movement. We could see veterans like a Torrey Craig and other players eventually move on from the Chicago Bulls. And so if you do see that, it could put Chris Duarte in a role where maybe he's asked to do more. And while we have rookies at the wing of like Miles Bucelis as well, who could be ahead of the depth chart on Chris Duarte, we'll see what comes down to it. Overall, as I've said many times in the episodes, I don't necessarily see Chris Duarte playing a huge role for the Chicago Bulls. I personally just don't. But if he is, it looks like him playing with having a point guard that's going to help set him up is going to help put him in the best situations. And while he still does not grade out as a great defender, and that's something that I will fight against the stats, the analytics show that, is that he's not a great one-on-one defender. He has shown some things to be a solid team defender in the concept of team basketball. And with a team that has missed and lost some of its best defenders, maybe Chris Duarte can step into that for the Chicago Bulls as well. But let me know what you guys think on all that down below. I know I threw a lot of information at you. This is another one of those basketball stats for nerds episodes, but I love doing this type of thing. Let me know what you guys think on this down below. We'll also do more videos like this for other players as we get closer to the season. But I know Chris Duarte is one that a lot of Bulls fans have some interest in, so I want to go ahead and knock this one out. But let me know what you guys think down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. For the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.